This tropical disturbance, it's going to be an issue for the Caribbean for the entire week ahead and other areas of potential tropical development as well. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back at Meteo Mundo. Nice to see you on an early Sunday afternoon. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, we're going to really deep dive into this tropical disturbance that we've been tracking all week long. It's beginning to impact portions of our area. Still a medium chance of development as it moves through the Caribbean, another area in the Northwest Gulf, and another one that's out in the Eastern Atlantic as well. So we're going to get right into the video. As always, you know I love to hear from you guys. I love our Meteo Mundo weather community. Let me know where you're viewing from, what the weather has been like. We're starting to get some active weather in association with this disturbance. Now, it's still located several hundred miles, several hundred kilometers to the west of the Lesser Antilles, but we're starting to see the moisture begin to move into portions of the island as we speak. This is still a very broad, disorganized area of showers and storms. It is not going to develop before it moves to the west of the Lesser Antilles. So we are not going to have a tropical depression or a tropical storm impacting the islands. That being said, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have some impacts, especially with some heavier rain, and we're already getting some of that. This is the visible satellite imagery. And again, it's just very clear to see from this that we have some areas of deeper convection, but we have certainly no low-level center of circulation here. And this system has really struggled. The Hurricane Center still has it as a 40% chance, but of course, we continue to back up the potential development time because now it doesn't look like this is going to happen in the Eastern Caribbean, potentially into the central and the western sides of the Caribbean. So again, at this point in time, we have no low-level structure with this, but we do have some very moisture-laden air, some very gusty winds, and some very heavy rainfall. One of the areas starting to see some of that heavier rain are our friends in Barbados, where there is, on this early Sunday afternoon, an active flash flood warning for the western and the central districts. We've already had 1 to 3 inches of rain. That's 25 to 75 millimeters in some spots across the island. And this will continue to be a wet forecast here. Really, again, the bulk of the activity is not going to be moving in until later tonight and then throughout the day on Monday. Barbados just happens to be one of those areas that has already been hit with some heavier rain and winds. But we're going to continue to see things moisten up across the area here as well. Going to throw on the temperatures in Fahrenheit, upper 80s to the lower 90s in these spots. But what I really want to do is switch over to the wind gusts. At this point in time, we're not seeing the gusty winds move in as of yet, but we're going to get some 15 to 30 mile an hour winds with some higher gusts. Again, they're not going to be concentrated, but they'll come in with some of these tropical downpours. Now, also starting to see some of this deeper moisture moving into the Windward Islands in general. So Trinidad, Tobago, and Grenada, and the Grenadines up to St. Vincent and St. Lucia, all again, rain is going to start to move into this area, settle in. It's just going to be a very wet forecast later today, tonight, and then throughout the day on Monday. Deepest moisture associated with this should stay in the southern half of the Lesser Antilles. But look, I want to be clear. I do expect it to get wet Martinique north all the way towards Anguilla. You can see we have some moisture-laden air just a couple hundred miles east of the Lesser Antilles and the Leeward Islands in general, and this will be working in tonight, overnight, and throughout the day on Monday, and of course then that's going to spread off towards the west. Now, at this point in time, a couple of isolated showers are possible for today. Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, Antigua ahead of the main bulk of moisture. So it's just going to get wetter in these areas as well. Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saba, St. Martin, St. Bart's, Anguilla, St. Eustatius, all of these areas will be impacted by this disturbance. Again, that is not going to become a depression or a storm before it moves across your area and off towards the west. But heavy rain is going to be an issue. Now, this is going to be spreading into the U.S. and British Virgin Islands late tomorrow and on Tuesday and through Puerto Rico as well. That doesn't mean you're not going to get some passing showers on this Sunday, but it's going to get wetter here. And again, breezes of 15 to 30 miles an hour with some higher gusts will accompany some of this activity. So scattered rain for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands for today. Very hot conditions as well. Excessive heat warning is in effect for portions of Puerto Rico and St. Croix. Please be very cautious in the outdoors for the afternoon hours. Feels like temperatures well above 100 degrees Fahrenheit. This will then, of course, continue to spread off towards the west, Nueva Esparta, and it's really great to see that we're seeing some localized showers and storms through portions of the ABC Islands. Look at these storms developing over Curacao right now with some 30-mile-an-hour winds. So our friends in the ABC Islands have already seen some localized rain, and there'll be more coming with this disturbance. So the first thing I want to do here is break down the rain in this area, and then we're going to deep dive into what the track could be in the other areas it could impact. But I do want to focus right now again, because we're just starting to see some of this move in at this point in time. So let's go over to the GFS model. Let me set this time frame up to just be for the next couple of days here. Of course, today is the 1st. Let's just go out until the afternoon here of Monday, the 3rd. So let's do that. Let's loop this up. All right, this is going to be the main window to impact the Lesser Antilles, portions of South America, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. All right, so we can clearly see this beginning to just march into the area here, as I mentioned, throughout the day. As we continue to drive through this Sunday, this disturbance starts to move in. Main impacts, again, look to start to move in tonight, overnight, and then throughout the day on Monday. This is 11 a.m. on the model. Again, maybe a little bit more concentrated, Martinique South, but I still expect there to be some good downpours for Anguilla, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, places like that, all right? The moisture is very elongated with this. So several inches of rain, localized flash flooding, and some gusty winds. By the time we get into Monday afternoon, we'll start to dry out through this area some, although there'll be some scattered showers, and then we'll look to Puerto Rico and the U.S. and the British Virgin Islands to start to see some of that heavier rain or more consistent rain and those gusty winds. Once again, we're just getting into, on Monday, the first opportunity for potential development, all right? That's the area in orange from the National Hurricane Center. But that development could be anywhere in this area all the way into the Northwest Caribbean, meaning that we could just have a disturbance moving through the Caribbean until potentially it gets into the far northwest side. It could develop as early as Monday here, but it might take much deeper into the week to actually get a closed center of circulation. So back over to, again, what this looks like right now. This is the tropical wave that we're talking about. The other one has a very low chance of development, probably is not going to happen. Only have a 10% chance for that area in the northwest side of the Gulf of Mexico. So for the disturbance that we're highlighting here, moving through with the best development chance, which is still 40% by the way, this is what I expect. Again, for Barbados, an active flash flood warning is currently in effect. There could be more localized flooding, more localized flash flood advisories, flash flood warnings. Please check in with your local government, your local officials for that. Overall for the Lesser Antilles, tonight through Monday, 2 to 4 inches of rain. 50 to 100 millimeters. There will be some locally higher amounts. Barbados is one spot that will probably see more than that in some parts of the island. Again, localized flooding, 15 to 30-mile-an-hour winds, and some higher gusts, obviously some kicked up surf and sea conditions. For Puerto Rico, the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, the timing is tomorrow and Tuesday, where they could get 1 to 3 inches of rain, 25 to 75 millimeters. Again, even that, too much, too short of a time, could lead to some localized flooding. I'm not as concerned about the flood potential there, but it's not zero as well. And again, 15 to 30-mile-an-hour winds with some higher gusts, kicked up surf and sea conditions to go along with it. So if you live in these areas, you're going to be active here starting today and in some spots all the way through Monday night and early on Tuesday. I think the best chance for Puerto Rico is going to be later Monday and early on Tuesday. So as we get into the rest of the forecast, again, thank you so much for just taking one moment as a quick payback and liking this video. If you haven't subscribed to Meteo Mundo, you want these tropical updates, you want your daily forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas, appreciate you subscribing right now. Thanks for sharing with your family and friends, anyone you think might get anything out of the videos, and of course the ways to support me here at the channel as well. So now we get into what could be happening in this orange area, basically, okay? So I'm going to take the GFS model and I'm going to extend it out much farther in time. We're going to go all the way to the 10th here. Now this is the deterministic GFS model, meaning that it's basically the big one, right? They put all the energy in the deterministic, all the computing power, and then we have the ensemble products that we can look at, all right? So this is the latest run of the deterministic. And let's kind of break down how this is going to play out on this particular model run. First of all, the GFS keeps this a relatively weak, sloppy system through the majority of the Caribbean. Now look, there's going to be rain impacts for the ABC Islands. There's going to be rain impacts down the road for the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Closer to the action would be our friends in Jamaica, again, in the orange area here. Down the road, and I'm talking about late this week, for these areas, the Cayman Islands, Cuba, maybe portions of the central and the northern sides of Central America, and eventually into the Yucatan. It's about this point in time, about 6 days out, that the deterministic model, the GFS, tries to develop a center of circulation, a closed center there somewhere south of the Cayman Islands. Right now on this one, this would have more direct impacts into the Yucatan and then into the southwest Gulf of Mexico. But we're going to look at a lot of different models and solutions where this is just one of them. But again, on the deterministic model, you can see that as I back this up in time back to about the 7th here, that we start to get this a little bit more ramped up in the far northwest Caribbean. All right, and again, particularly here, it would be northern sides of Central America and the Yucatan for next weekend, and then early for the week after as well. Now we're getting out to about a 10-day time frame and a lot more rain potentially for the northwest Gulf of Mexico, sans any development out of this stationary low that is just pumping a ton of rain into portions of upper Texas and Louisiana. This has nothing to do with that current situation there. If I go back in time, all right, for this area, again, this should fade. It shouldn't develop, but how quickly does it fade? Because if it's a couple more days of rain for Louisiana and Texas, additional big-time flash flooding could be a concern. If I go back to the GFS here, which I'm on, and I switch over to the low-level winds, and I wrap this up and loop it up, we're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. First of all, you'll notice that we're going to have a broad field of these 15 to 30 mile an hour winds. So mariners, please be cautious about that, especially on the exposed Atlantic side and on the eastern sides of the islands. This is going to be, it's, not a concentrated wind maker, but again, 15, 30 mile an hour winds coming along with it, obviously kicked up as this system moves through. Then we'll follow this as it traverses the Caribbean, and hopefully we'll get a full model run here because the 12Z was just coming in. We'll see if I might not be able to get the full run of the winds, which stinks, but we'll take it out as far as we possibly can here. So let me pause this real quick and go back to where we probably have, looks like we lose it right about there. So I want to just start here for a second. This is going to be Wednesday the 4th, correct? Today is Sunday the 1st, Monday the 2nd, Wednesday the 3rd, Tuesday the 3rd, Wednesday the 4th. So Wednesday the 4th, okay? We see a broad wind field right here. Some of that wind, even on the GFS, which doesn't ramp this up any, let me bring this back here, has some decent wind associated with it. Let's query that. Again, we have 30, and these are sustained winds at the surface. So we're just starting to get close to a tropical depression development here on Wednesday afternoon, south of Hispaniola, and then moving off towards the west, obviously. And again, hopefully, fortunately, just lose the model there. It looks like on the 4th. It looks like we don't have the full run of that in. But we can see that there will be some stronger winds, potentially late Wednesday and into Thursday, moving into Jamaica, right? That's kind of the first potential to wrap this thing up. Now, I want to be clear, there's also going to be some stronger winds that'll be moving across Hispaniola and the Turks and Caicos, Cuba, and portions of the southeast Bahamas. Not nearly as strong, but still 20 to 25 sustained with some higher gusts. Let me try this one more time. If I take this back down even just a little bit here, see if it will cooperate and give me a little bit more of the model run. Doing this in real time, so stick with me. Let's see. Come on. Yeah, we are getting a little bit more of it. Okay, good. Excellent. So basically, as I'm talking, the model run is coming in here. Now, what's interesting to note on the GFS, and I saw this in deterministic, you actually have some pretty strong winds here on Wednesday, as I noticed, but notice how it kind of doesn't actually develop past that, right? And as we get past Jamaica it then tries to wrap back up. But it's interesting because instead of just a gradual strengthening of the winds east of Jamaica, it actually doesn't have it trying to really get going until it actually gets most closer to the Yucatan and Central America. Let's see if we can go out 2 more days here. So again, really weak. It would be interesting to see on this scenario, would we get a depression here and then it almost tries to fall apart again? Or does it just stay a high-end disturbance and then wraps up a little bit more as it tries to nudge towards the Yucatan? Again, this is just on the GFS model at this point in time. But you can clearly see what I'm talking about, the redevelopment, if you will, right here. And again, now you're talking about being a week out. But that would be the strongest part, okay, on the GFS. Looking at that, again, is it exceptionally high? No, but would we probably have a depression or a weak tropical storm out of this? Yes. And again, getting a little bit stronger right before it would try and push into the northern sides of Central America or the Yucatan. Let me be clear again, 1 model run of the GFS, but just to show you that it is traversing through that orange area, all right? Let's look at the ensemble members of both the GFS and the European. We'll start off with the European, all right? Same scenario here, guys. Not really seeing a lot of development until maybe we get into Thursday, central or the western sides of the Caribbean, and then we have that stronger signal for quicker development northwest Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico, all right? But again, this wave has struggled, and we'll see if that development can happen here, or if it can happen here, or it happens in the Gulf, or it doesn't even happen at all. But if you live in these areas, again, you need to monitor the situation. The farther east that you live, Haiti, DR, areas east, again, rain and wind, but not a wrapped up storm. Jamaica West, a potential. So that's what we have to monitor. And there's still a lot of divergence on the European model as to where this could go and how strong it could get. Some members don't develop it. Others have it becoming a stronger tropical storm, potentially even still a hurricane. Although the longer it takes to develop, more than likely the weaker it's going to be. But there are some ensembles that still keep it strong. Now the GFS, again, so we're looking at 51 different members, not just that deterministic one. It's part of it, but you can see we really only have one that makes it a stronger storm in the Northwest Caribbean. Others do take it over the Yucatan. Others take it right through the passage there between the Yucatan and Cuba. And then potential more development into the Gulf of Mexico, again, in that 8, 9, 10-day window. But not much on the board through midweek. That's why it's looking better for areas off towards the east. And again, it's a really slow loop here. I wanted to make sure you guys could see this, but Friday, Saturday of the week ahead, and then into Sunday, there is the better potential. So both the GFS and the European model have the better potential in the northwest side of the Caribbean and then into the Gulf of Mexico. So friends, as of now, again, it hasn't changed, and that's great news that we're still only looking at a 40% chance of development as it moves across the Caribbean for the week ahead. It is going to be something that will be with us at least through next weekend. So no action is needed as far as taking any preparations for the Lesser Antilles, the U.S., British Virgin Islands, and Puerto Rico. Again, doesn't mean you're not going to get impacts. We just talked about those, the several inches of rain in some spots, the potential isolated flooding, the gusty winds, but you don't have to take any actions. If you live in these areas, you just still need to monitor because, again, development could happen as far east as the ABC Islands, the Dominican Republic, or Haiti, though that chance looks relatively low. And then for Jamaica, Cuba, the northern sides of Central America, and the Yucatan. Again, just be very vigilant to just monitor what's going to be happening with this disturbance for the week ahead. As far as surf and sea conditions go, again, obviously this is based off the GFS model. You can see that it has some areas of some stronger waves and winds and some action across the Caribbean. And again, this is going to come with those winds that we just showed you, 15, 30 miles an hour, obviously potentially wrapped up a little bit more. All easterlies outside for the most part. So mariners, just use caution, of course, if this is potentially headed in your direction. Okay. Now we're going to get back to the island by island forecast here, okay? And before we wrap up the potential here, just to show that there is a very low chance that this system that is off towards our east is actually going to develop. I need to take the loop here down just a little bit. Give me 1 second here. See if we can loop this up for you guys. Oh, it's done the hiccup where it doesn't want to loop. That's okay. So anyway, potential development here looks to be very, very low. It's a 10% chance here. And again, to be clear, that doesn't necessarily matter because it's about the feeding of the tropical moisture into coastal Louisiana and upper Texas with some big time flooding issues there. One area that has actually had some pretty darn good rain for today is our friends in the Bahamas. Let me bring up the radar here. You can see some of those heavier showers at the hour, okay? We actually have a severe thunderstorm watch for portions of the Bahamas through 6 p.m. issued by the Bahamas Department of Meteorology, all right? Heavy rain, gusty winds, a lot of lightning could accompany some of this activity, all right? So be aware of that. For the boaters wanting to be outside, it could be a relatively wet forecast. Few storms are developing at the hour over Andros and portions of New Providence. Let me throw back on this here, just get a little bit broader view. We had some healthier storms actually farther south earlier in the morning hours, but this is one area that could continue to see some heftier showers and storms, all right? We'll get some additional storms developing over Hispaniola today. You can already see some storms over the peninsula there of Haiti near Lacaille, but isolated to scattered storms. Not a lot of rain is expected until later today for Puerto Rico and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands. Again, isolated, but they'll start to move in, of course, as the wave begins to stream across the area as well. Sorry about that. Let me get back into it a little bit closer. I'm trying to get this thing to cooperate in a loop, although I'm not sure it's going to here, unfortunately. Don't think that there's anything I can do on the fly that is going to let me do that. If I try this real quick. Nope. Okay. Unfortunately, we're in a static mode here, and sometimes that just happens. Storms in the northwest side of Cuba. Been quiet so far in the Cayman Islands. We're getting a few storms developing at the hour through Jamaica. Just a few developing on the northern side of the island. All right, Ocho Rios, potentially on over towards Montego Bay, Cambridge area there. All of this will be tracking off towards the west. And again, the orange areas are the potential development areas. Still have some access of moisture here. And again, it's nice to see some of the rain in the ABC Islands. So let's break down the rain chance island by island for us here. Once again, watch out for some stronger storms in the northwest Bahamas the remainder of today. It'll be more isolated in nature for the central and southeast Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos the next couple of days. Stay more concentrated, generally speaking, the farther northwest you are in the Bahamas. For Cuba, it's a 60% chance for storms today, tomorrow, and Tuesday. Cayman Islands, 40% chance later today, 30% chance Monday, Tuesday. Belize City, Cancun, and Cozumel, more isolated in nature, but again, still some locally heavy rain is possible. Jamaica's chance today is 40%, then kind of more isolated Monday, Tuesday. Watch out for the heat. The Dominican Republic's rain chances will go up 40 today, but up to a 60 Monday, Tuesday. We'll continue to see the rain chances just go higher and higher. Again, a lot of this today for Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands will be late, and then better rain chances setting in throughout the day, Monday night into Tuesday. Bermuda's rain chances stay low. Look at the high rain chances here, even as far north as Anguilla. Again, we may not have the heaviest rain for today, but it does begin to set in on Monday and then throughout Tuesday. So it's an 80, 90% chance in a lot of spots. And look how wet it is going to be across the Lesser Antilles. So Antigua, Barbuda, 80 today, 90 tomorrow, 70 Tuesday. It's 80, 90 Montserrat, Guadalupe, Dominica. Now, for Tuesday for these areas, skewed to the earlier part of the day. The axis of heaviest rain and moisture should move west early on Tuesday, and rain chances throughout the day on Tuesday should begin to fall. But still, Martinique 80, St. Lucia 70, St. Vincent and the Grenadines 80. Again, Barbados, active flood warning here on this Sunday afternoon. Monday's going to be wet as well. 70 on Tuesday. Grenada, Trinidad and Tobago, all with high rain chances. Same thing for Suriname and Guyana. Nueva Esparta, good rain chances. And again, healthy storm chances across the ABC Islands as well, trying to help our friends out there. Friends, you want to help me out, you can follow us across all of social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, it's mymeteomundo@gmail.com. Would love to get some pictures or video out of the Lesser Antilles, some of the areas being impacted, to show that in tomorrow's video. If you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to answer that in the comment section below. Once again, our disturbance, a couple hundred miles east of the Lesser Antilles, already starting to get influenced though with some heavier rain as we speak. That will only pick up throughout the day. Then the potential starting as early as Monday for development with this system, but more than likely it'll take a little bit deeper into the Caribbean to try and wrap this up. Regardless, this is going to bring widespread heavy rain and gusty winds across all of this area throughout the week. I'll keep you covered. I appreciate you liking and subscribing. And friends, I'll see you soon right here at Meteo Mundo.